Possibly one of the most closely watched ballot measures this election season comes from the state of Minnesota. Today, voters in the city of Minneapolis were asked to decide whether the police department should be disbanded and a new Department of Public Safety would take its place. The ballot question comes after the murder of George Floyd last year, strengthened calls to divest from policing and redirect funding toward needed social services. The decision at the polls tonight in the Twin Cities could have an impact on cities around the country. Joining me now to discuss this is an organizer from one of the groups behind the ballot question. Miski Noor is co-director of Black Visions. Welcome to Black News Tonight. What would replacing the police with a Department of Safety actually mean, and what would it entail?
Well, thank you for having me, Mark. I'm so glad you're feeling better. So well wishes to you. And it would
Thank
mean
you.
a lot, honestly. Yeah, it would mean a lot. It would mean that we would move away from a policing only response when folks are calling for help and need support, and that we could actually diversify the ways in which we actually support our folks. And so, whether it's somebody who's in the middle of a mental health crisis, or somebody who needs de escalation, or somebody who actually needs somebody who can support them through an overdose, possibly, it means the right response for the right situation versus sending a person with a gun each and every time, which we know ends up in Black people being murdered indiscriminately by the police. And so it's time for something new. And a new way of actually approaching safety in a holistic way. And we're trying to approach it with a comprehensive health approach that is actually about keeping people alive and not just criminalizing them and then incarcerating them.
There are people watching this program, and I'm sure voters in Minneapolis and around the country who will say, why not just get the police to do those things? Why can't police departments de-escalate? Why can't they do conflict resolution? Why can't they call out a mental health expert when someone's having a crisis? Why disband them entirely?
Well, one, because they're not doing that right now, right? At least I can, speaking for the Minneapolis Police Department, it has failed at its mandate of safety for 153 years. And so I think that is more than a referendum on whether or not they're actually doing that. Second, this isn't disbanding the police, actually, even though that is something some of us actually do want to happen. The police will exist inside of the Department of Public Safety. It just would be not only police anymore, right? It would be a comprehensive health approach to supporting folks when they do ask for help, and the police would actually continue to be a part of that. What would happen if this amendment were to pass in Minneapolis is that within the first 30 days, the city council and the mayor would have to appoint a director of the Department of Public Safety. And from there would be a data-driven process that actually includes the people of Minneapolis to decide what safety looks like in the city. And that's what we're really fighting for our people, for our community, to define what safety means and to actually be a part of the governance and the decision-making of how that happens here, and not just having a few elite decide what is right and what safety looks like. And which has resulted, for Minneapolis anyways, right, in Black folks being murdered over and over again in our city. The other thing I'd say is that what the amendment would actually do is remove the police department from being inside of our city, the city charter. And Minneapolis is the only city in the entire state that actually has that. We see what happens to Black people here. And so that is something that needs to happen. The city charter change would actually confront the infrastructure of policing here and give us something new to work with. Because in our city, we have had task forces, we've had the DOJ come in, we've had all types of promises made, and it is because of this infrastructure that we haven't actually been able to move past.
How did this happen? How did the ballot question come to be? I understand the kind of political backdrop. We saw the murder of George Floyd. We've seen police terrorism in Minneapolis for sure. But to get from that place to a place where it's on the ballot takes some work. How did the ballot initiative come to be, and what kind of support does it have from residents?
Thank you so much for this question. Yes, it's been a lot of work to get here, and a lot of people power. The people of Minneapolis really did this, and really want to shout out especially the Black and brown youth who really took to the streets, that ignited our city in an uprising that spread across the country and then across the world, right? The amendment change. Sorry, goodness. So shout out to the Black youth, and then also this change would make so much more possible for Minneapolis. And the way that we actually got to be here is our people fighting for it. And so after the uprising, we actually organized our city council to make a stand to say that they would support us in dismantling the police to move towards more safety in our city. We were fighting to get it on the ballot last year, and we were actually thwarted by bureaucracy. There is the Charter Commission, which is a body that is appointed, not democratically elected, mostly of white people who dragged their feet so that this couldn't be on the ballot last year. And so what we ended up
Wow.
actually having to do is, yeah, exactly, right? But what actually ended up happening is that we went through a more democratic process because we had to collect at least 12,000 signatures to get it on the ballot this year. We collected over 22,000 signatures to get it on the ballot. This was through the Minnesota
Wow,
winter and the rain.
22,000 signatures.
Pandemic.
22,000 signatures. That's a lot of signatures. And that speaks to the kind of groundswell of support you have. I have to run now, but we want to wish you luck. I want to wish you luck tonight on the ballot initiative. We want to see you victorious. Win or lose, I'm going to have you all back in the next day or two so we can talk about what the next steps look like, either to fight again or to talk about what the next steps are after a victory. I'm claiming the victory for y'all already, though.